Motion for the minutes of. And that is 4.11 to 4.13. Do I have
Or 4.32 is the last one.
or 4.32? Okay. Councillor Knott,
Do we should do it now? It's 4.3.
We need a second.
Yeah. I just have-
Councillor Ritzman. You had a question, Councillor Knott?
4.3.1, I had not so much a question, just a comment. I just wanted to point out that for those that didn't really catch that, that is the formal request for the $5,000 loan for the 140 committee. So it's in a separate letter. It's part of the agenda. So just in case anybody wonders what that was, that's what it is.
Councillor Syke?
So I have some other questions, but I also do have a comment on that as well. You know, I think this would become a committee of council as well as advocacy committee is.
It is a committee of council.
So
This is the one we approved it, subject to it being voted on properly.
so do we have a terms of reference for this committee at this point?
Subcommittee.
So this, it's my understanding this is a subcommittee of the Blythe BIA. So we do have a charter for the Blythe BIA. And I think as we're looking at all of our terms of reference for committees, we should probably look at the charter for the BIAs and make sure that there's an understanding for financial provisions in there as well.
Yeah, actually, I think there's a draft from the BIA handbook that you can use. That's not, have you seen that? Have you read that? Ken?
Well, not since it was passed a few years ago.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's a draft terms of reference for BIAs. And none of the subcommittees are supposed to operate under that same.
Yes, and this committee is a subcommittee for the
Yeah.
Blythe BIA, not
Okay.
council. I hope I understand.
Okay. Karen, can I carry on, Reed?
Yes.
So this question is for Donna with regards to her finance department report and the asset management plan. Phase 2, is my understanding, is due by the end of this
December.
year. On a percentage of 1 to 100, 100 being finished, what percentage are we to that end? Would you say?
Percentage wise, I don't know what percentage I would pick at this time. I've just had a meeting with them last week. From my end of things, I've sent them everything that I have to send. So it's just a matter of what their timetable would be. So I could check with them and ask them what their timetable would be on getting it finished. But there's nothing more that I know of at this time that I have to send them.
But is there anything that potentially could be followed up? Like, is this information that you're giving them and they're just inputting it, or is this potential back and forth conversation?
It will be back and forth, yes.
So.
Somebody arrest that man. I was sure it was rape.
I can pose that question, Trevor.
I think it would be
Yeah.
beneficial for us as council to know if, because that deadline is December 31st and we are now going to hit on October before our next meeting. It would be nice to know where we're at on that.
Okay, definitely.
The next question actually is for David. When does it become, and it's a note about this Alarm for Life door-to-door campaign.
Yep.
In Morristown. I know we've had one in North Huron as well, like in Wingham area, North Huron's too. When does it become, and I don't know if I've asked this question before, when does it become a liability to the municipality that we've went door to door and we know that these houses or residences don't meet the Ontario Fire Code? And then when does it become a liability for us that they don't?
And yeah, you're right, the liability is always a concern. The way it works for us is when we leave your home, it is compliant. So if we go to your house and you're short 3 smoke alarms and 1 carbon monoxide, the 3 smoke alarms are donated and installed, and you sign a waiver acknowledging that you assume responsibility and liability for them. And the carbon monoxide is sold at cost. At no time will we leave a house after we've gained entrance that isn't compliant with the fire code, because if we do, you're exactly right, we are totally on the hook.
Okay. The comment to that report also is I'm actually quite concerned that we offer a campaign of no charge to them. I'm actually told Colborne Walmarsh is what I'm suggesting, and they've declined it. Did they decline it for a certain reason, or have they just declining it for what?
I don't know. Under the act, the fire services are under the FPPA, the Protection and Prevention Act. Fire departments are responsible for having a smoke alarm campaign. That can be as simple as you've got smoke alarms for free at the fire station. You hand them out for free at a certain event. You sell them at a discount. There's nothing formal. On our end, we just looked at it, and as noted in my report, the results in North Huron were atrocious. About 8% of the homes we went to actually were compliant with the law. When I wrote this report, the 2 previous nights we've been out on the door-to-door campaign in Morris Turnberry, not a single home was compliant. Out of every house we visited, 0 were compliant with the fire code. We're on schedule to be done next summer, about 2/3 of the way through our normal campaign. We figured if we offered it to ACW, we would finish out our normal campaign allotment and have checked all of the homes we cover in ACW. At the end of the day, it's a council or staff decision to decline it. No reason given. From where I sit as a fire chief, and I keep telling council in the past, my responsibility is for the safety of the public, that I'm paid to serve, that we're paid to protect. That has to begin with smoke alarms. It just has to. But bottom line is that if they don't want to do it, they don't have to. From where I sit, it's the best thing they could possibly do for the safety of the residents. But bottom line is that if they don't want to, they don't have to. And at this point, they've declined.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Deputy Reeve?
On that, Dave, did we go back and redo this 5 years down the road or 10 years down the road?
Well, what we did in North Huron is we've been through every house, and they've either, some houses just didn't want us in. If we're by your house once or twice, we leave a note, call us, have us check. We were to one house after the smoke alarm campaign 3 times, and every time we went there, the alarms were disabled, batteries removed, etc. And at that point, we came back to council, and subsequent to that, if you're in North Huron and you've had a chance of free smoke alarms and a free check, if you choose not to have that or choose to disable or remove or be non-compliant, we are laying fines against you, and they're $300-400 tickets. In the case of Morris Turnberry, we'll be done all of Morris Turnberry that we serve next year. The portion that's served by Huron East has not had a door-to-door campaign. That's a Morris Turnberry prerogative, and it'll be up to Morris Turnberry Council what they want to do with those residents if we go back, having done the same thing, free smoke alarms, free check, and they choose to disable or remove or make them non. As far as at the end of 10 years, will we go back and revisit? We've talked a little bit about that because since we did the one in North Huron, carbon monoxide alarms are now the law. And we know from experience that we've had calls where carbon monoxide alarms have alerted people to situations that they wouldn't have known were going on in their home without them. So at the end of 10 years, will we redo it? That'll be something we'll discuss with council and seek council's direction on that. You know, end of the day, at 10 years, the smoke alarms we installed will all be expired and they'll be due for replacement again.
Okay.
Any further questions? All in favor? Carried. 5.1.
We have to adjourn. Go into
Okay. We will temporarily adjourn the council meeting to do a,
development charges.
a development charges public meeting. Mover and seconder. Councilor Knott, Councilor Hall. All in favor? And do I have to go through the, just let Matt go?
Just let me go.
Okay, go ahead, Matt.
So this is the statutory meeting under the Development Charges Act for you to impose another development charges bylaw. So we were here a month ago, and we sort of we had a bit of a workshop where we went through the background report and necessary to support another bylaw. We talked about the history of the development charges over the last 5 years. We talked about growth. We talked about projects, which projects were in or out, and the next steps. And I'm not going to go through everything we did before, but at that meeting, we asked you to set at least a target number that we could advertise to be discussed at a public meeting. By the act, we have to have the draft bylaw available 2 weeks before the public meeting. We had to have the background report available 40 days before. So we had a draft background report. We have since finalized that. At the meeting, you set some draft numbers based on your treasurer's report, and so those were the ones that were put into a draft bylaw, which was then put on your website, advertised in the newspaper. You need to pass a bylaw by October 17th to have no gap, from 5 years to 5 years. That's what we're doing here. Just to remind you, back in 2011, when we did a background report with the projects we had of the day, we came up with a defendable charge of a little under $10,000 for the single family home. And you charge different amounts depending on the type of residence it is. You don't charge a non-residential charge. So it's different for apartments, it's different for semis, and different for single family. You also charge in two different areas. You charged in the Wingham ward, and then you had a charge in Blythe and the township, which was the same. This is all based on the services that are offered in that particular ward. So with a justifiable charge of $10,000, and you passed a bylaw of the day at $4,500 for a single family home, and then depending on the type of residence, it decreased, and it's all based on estimated people in that residence. And then in the Blythe and East Wampanoag, it was about $1,500. We went through forecasting development. You don't have a lot of development, you know this, but you do collect off the development you have. You're losing people and you're still gaining houses. That's just the way it is. There's less people in the house now. So you have something to charge. And you want to be set for the future in case there's more. So you want to have a development charge. It's not the be all end all just because you don't have a lot of development, but everything you collect helps, keeps it off the books of the rest of the population in terms of taxation. We talked about projects. We dropped some projects out. Looked at any new ones, and particularly there's a new well in Blythe, and we should be able to collect development charges off new development there for part of it, and just their piece of it, because you're actually replacing a well that you have. And there's a few other projects on here that were carried over from the last time that we haven't built yet, and because this is done every 5 years, you have the opportunity to change the projects. And there's mechanisms in place. If you collected for, we talked about this, a public works facility, and you decide you're not going to build one. And in this case, it's because you're talking about dual services, and maybe you'll be able to use each other's stuff. And then we'll take that money that's there and apply it to another public works project. So people don't pay for nothing. So you'll get the credit really on the next public works project. And, but the mechanism's there, so you can do that. This time we've calculated the, defendable charges again based on the projects, and it's about $8,500 in single family in the Wingham ward. And now we have three separate amounts because of the new well in Blythe. So East Wamarsh doesn't have a well system or water system. So the charge in Blythe will be higher than the charge in the township just because of the water system. Otherwise, over on the right side of that chart, the firefighting, transportation, Parks Recreation Administration, everybody uses those same services, and their charge is the same down the line for that. Wingham has sewage service project on here, and Blythe has a water project. Blythe doesn't have a sewage project because they have sewage capacity. It was put in a long time ago, more than 30 years now. And conversely, in Wingham, we don't have a water project because we have lots of water available that we can put in the system. And so that's the difference on them. You chose some charges that night. There. That night you went with the treasurer's report, and we put these charges forward. $5,300 in Wingham ward. I think a little PowerPoint behind myself, so I'm trying to read that, which is not easy. $5,300 in the Wingham ward, $2,560 in the Blythe ward, and $1,651 in the East Wamarsh. So those have been put out. The public has seen them, had an opportunity to see them, and comment on them. You only received one comment in the last few weeks on this, and it was the county, and they were just inquiring if you were going to put exemptions in for affordable housing. And they made the same comment to Goddard, which is doing the same thing as you are right now. You have no exemptions in for affordable housing. I can say that none of the bylaws we've done in the past have put an exemption in for affordable housing, but we've seen one go in recently in Kincardine. But it's not even an exemption, it's a process. It sets out what's affordable housing, and what you have to do to ask council to exempt you from it. So you could do that. The simplest way, because that's a big policy decision though, because once you set that in motion, you pretty much got to grant it to meet all the rules. If people want an exemption for affordable housing project, they can come to council and you can give them relief from this bylaw. So just do it one-off. We talked over, it's probably the simplest thing for you to do, gives you the most flexibility. Affordable housing I often think is the habitat housing. But in the past, there were lots of provincial monies available for affordable housing for developers. And they would apply and they would get a grant, which is one of the criteria in sort of the Kincardine bylaw. But they're still, for them, it's a business, right? They're still building a house and they're just getting there. You'll have the flexibility to do that. Anything in our bylaw. You don't see those programs around. Those are programs from 20 years ago. But a lot of affordable housing get built, which is a good thing. And you'll have the opportunity to donate the exemption if somebody asks you. So that's the only comment we had. We have to have a bylaw passed by October 17th. And just to remind you, those are charged, your charge sort of fit in the middle of all these other charges. This is a great tool. If you have development, it can be lucrative is not the word, because the money goes back into projects. You don't get to put it in your treasury and keep it. And but one of our clients, I was looking at the money in the reserve account. Now they're a busy place. They build, they do what, 30 homes a year. They have $800,000 in their reserves. They got some big projects to build, but it has significance. And it's a municipality no bigger than you, and we talked about that. It's all about where you are relative to everything else. So I think your numbers are good. I think the industry, they're not here tonight. They've accepted development charges in your municipality, and you don't have to worry about them, or we would have heard from them. And that's it. Anybody have any questions?
Must be
That's all you have.
reasonable,
Well, you know, historically,
costs that you,
in the old days, 20 years we've had experience with this now, not here, but over 20 years. We'd have people out to the meetings and we don't anymore. Because the process is kind of known and accepted. And it's been a long time since we've had an exciting public meeting in development. That's okay.
well, thank you. We made it real easy on you, man.
Oh, well.
No, it's, the background work is what goes into it and having reasonable numbers to make decisions on, so thank you. Trevor?
Yeah, the real difficulty is this is a charge that is for people that are coming into the municipality. The people that are already here, they don't, do they care about it? There's a development charge? Maybe. The fact is that it's for people who are coming in. Because the builders or the developers are passing this on to those people. They're not gonna eat this cost.
But the answer to that, Counselor, is that if you don't collect the money from these charges, it comes out of your tax base because you got to build the infrastructure. So then every other person pays. And that does get out there and known. I've had people come to, this is again, more confrontational meetings where the developers are kind of protesting and the people in town are saying, oh, we got to pay it if. So I know it's not the target audience, doesn't know about this.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that the charge itself, a ratepayer isn't gonna be careful whether they just care that we're charging something. Because the fact is that that's gonna be paying somebody else, or they're gonna have to come up with that money. The fact that these ratepayers aren't gonna be charged this. It's the people coming in that are gonna be charged ultimately these rates. So that's the fact that it's hard to get a public meeting, because again, if you have something calculated, people want you to calculate it and then provide that calculation and do that cost. People will, that's the ratepayers of today, that's what they want, because if I'm gonna have to pay it later out of something else, this is a charge that helps that. But
And in this case, you don't charge the full defendable amount, so they're going to pay something. It's really, yes, it really ends up being your development industry, whether it's the realtors or the builders that are more in tune with this, because they know that they have to pass it on. But I don't know if I told the story here, but one public meeting we were at, the municipality wanted to put a second ice pad in. It's a pretty expensive project. And the developer, we had met with the development industry on a side meeting, which we've done another place. We did here 5 years ago. And he stood up and said, I don't know if we need another ice rink here, but I sell homes in communities that provide services that are good, and I want a good community. And if you as council think this is required, then I will support that. And that was a great thing to hear. And that was a place where we had contention before, because at one point we had charges in the 11,000 to 12,000 range 15 years ago. And they've come down as the projects got built in. But to hear that's the kind of thing you want to hear. And any of you that were at the meeting with the development industry 5 years ago heard some of that. Not quite that adamant, but recognizing that charges are necessary to build things so they can build homes. So that's the trade-off.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to reconvene. Motion to adjourn this part, Trevor. And all in favor? Okay, motion to reconvene the council meeting. Trevor and Miranda. All in favor? Carried. Okay, moving to 5.2. Who wants to lead off there?
It appears that our delegation has not arrived. Kathy, you spoke to the delegation and you were expecting them this evening, so I wonder if they've forgotten. We do have the PowerPoint presentation here, which summarizes the request, although the delegate is not here to put context to it for council. So it's up to council to decide whether you want to consider the information in the request, or you can and direct staff to prepare a report if you feel there is further merit, or we can simply note and file this report in the absence of the delegate.
Councillor Knott?
I'd like to move that we file it without them present. Like the next meeting, I would like to do that, or just show the information.
Is
There is
there
a
a seconder for that?
So if we give these guys money, we can
Deputy Reeve Campbell seconds it. Further discussion on filing motion? Councillor Slate?
I just want to understand the reasoning why we're filing it and not waiting, or not requiring a staff report or something. We've got the information, I'm just trying to understand why.
because there is potentially another dog park which is being considered. So I think that if we make a decision based on this information, I think we should just wait for them to come and make their presentation, see what they want. If we give them something now, we'll have no choice but give it to the other. You're gonna set a precedent.
Well, the problem is we're not deciding to do anything. All we're deciding is the request or recommendation is to provide a staff report. That's
And I
the
don't-
request.
I would rather see us wait and do the staff report and both requests at the same time.
So when do we, like, this is the first I've ever heard of another dog park. So the conversation is that, like, what if that dog park never exists or never comes to fruition? Then is this filing this, does that give it, does it put it
I
on the hold,
think
or?
if they show up, that would be a greater indication. But if they're not prepared to show up, I really don't see why we should give them, waste time, staff time at this point in a recommendation or report that they could end up duplicating in 2 months. It's a waste of staff time.
Sorry, I understand your concern, Councilor Knott. The only understanding is we don't know why they're not here. It could be emergency. We have no reason. So the conversation is that we've got a report. We've got their request. I suspect it would just go through the slides as my guess. I don't know that. But the question is are we willing to put merit to the information? And if we're not, if it can come back to the table later, I'm okay with that.
That is the thing that, by filing it now, we have that on record, and it can come back to the table at any time as the need arises for it, so that it definitely doesn't disappear, but we don't invest staff time in the one-off, and that I have heard the possibility of another one as well, so that I am comfortable with having it filed for now, and that there's other information in talking to the people involved that I want to make an offer to them. Deputy Reeve.
This figure is not a true figure. I understand that a local business has volunteered hosts to put up this park. So that would change this figure altogether. This really isn't a true figure. So, and I think that came since this report has been made. So it's hard for us to base our thoughts on this when it's going to change by $1,465.
Listen, I don't disagree.
Yeah.
The conversation is to prepare a staff report. That was the recommendation based on this. Staff might have more information than we do. We're not making a decision on whether it goes ahead or not, so that's fine.
That we have a motion on the floor, and that I feel that at this time, with there's changing information on this at this time, I think for another meeting or even a full month from now, we will have a lot more information on this subject, and I feel that we could move ahead far better use of our time, and especially our staff time by doing this. Ray, do you want to speak?
I agree.
Anybody else want to speak to the motion? All in favor of the motion? Carried. Okay. 6.11, who wants to speak to that? The data backup and disaster. Anybody on council want to ask questions of the suggested motion? Is that enough information that Trevor?
The only question I had, and Donna probably can answer, is what was the total budget put in the budget for this particular item?
We had 45,850 in the administration budget.
So 45,008, and the request is for 25, right?
Well, there's pieces there, though. You have the first one is the primary service
Oh,
server.
10, okay, 10 plus the 25. Okay, yep, good.
And then there's ongoing maintenance after that.
Yep, okay, good.
Still within budget though.
Yes. 45, good.
Ready?
I would make the motion.
Okay. Bill, you're seconding?
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Moving to 6.2.1, CMO banking limit.
I move we approve this.
Trevor, you're
I'll
second.
second for discussion, yeah.
And do you have a question?
I do. So I just want to ask the question about the $1 million limit. And the reason why I'm asking is because I know you're asking for a motion for the $1 million. If there's an exemption that is required, will there be a motion needed to exempt from this $1 million limit? Like, I know this piece of software, so I understand the conversation of limits and how you get an exemption from it. But how does that process work within the council? That's the question I'm questioning.
So you're meaning to increase the limit.
So you're asking for $1 million. So the understanding that I'm getting is that at no point is there at any one day you're going to be paying out $1 million. That's the idea, is the $1 million limit, right?
Right. We can go up to $1 million.
Up to $1 million. So if you want, for example, if the county and the school board and all your things and the payroll happen to land on the same day, and it was 1.5 million, what's the process on the exemption if you've asked me for a bylaw for $1 million? How do you get the exemption? Because you're going to need the bylaw, or you're going to need a motion to go above it.
The only way you could go above it would be on a temporary basis, as outlined in our contact at the CIBC. I've included his information in there. So he is saying that if there was, in the second paragraph there, he says, please keep in mind on rare occasions when the remittances above 1 million are required, we can request a temporary increase for a couple of days to allow payments to be processed. So if we were going to do something like that, we would have to bring it to council first. But you can see, which isn't going to work for us, because that's just the thing is for right now, our limit is really low. Our limit's only 350. So we're going to work within the $1 million for our first while and continue our test project and see where we're at. But you could see, like tonight, for example, your total payables, if we were going to do them all by EFT, we're at about $1.2 million tonight. if we did everything, $1.3 million is what our total bills that we're paying tonight, for example, because the school boards and the county are all in there. So for right now, I'm satisfied that the $1 million is going to suit us well for the next few months, and as we move into this project and get more familiar with the how many vendors we're paying at a time. But definitely those one-offs for the school boards in the county, we're gonna have to keep an eye on them because we're not gonna be able to go over without an exception.
And it's a daily limit,
Yes.
so you can pay them one on Thursday and one on Friday.
Right. That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? We have the motion, all in favor? Carried. Okay, moving to 6.3.1. The Town Hall HVAC Engineering. Pat, it was just on checking that.
Yes, it was just looking at the quote again and realizing that the electrical had not been included, and then following up with that vendor, adding it in, then it pushed us over the limit, by which I had to go through procurement policy to use the lowest bid, which was Martin Stevenson, at $10,000 instead of the $11,650.
You're moving,
Yes.
and Yolanda second. All in favor? Carried. Okay, 6.32, the airport terminal building. Something similar, just checking
Yeah,
over as to how it was.
Yeah, just, once we'd hired them, confirming that they could not produce the certificate and, needing to go to the next one who could for the extra $90.
Move.
Trevor and Ray. All in favor? Carried. Okay. So, what's the next motion?
We're down to council reports.
Yeah, okay. Council reports, 8.1. The activity report, there's a number of things that Councillor Hallahan and I have worked on with the East Wanash 150 the committee. And personally, I was heavily involved in 3 fairs last week, so that it was nice that there was great weather for 2 of them. Saturday and Lucknow seemed to come together for another rainy Lucknow fair, but the show went on. Going to council members, things that you have attended, or Councillor Vaughn.
Yeah, I just wanted to report briefly on the monthly meeting of the CHIP organization. One of the issues that we're really concerned about is our budget. It seems that the county considers that any group that goes to them for money should eventually become self-sustaining. And I think that certainly applied to the Huron County Tourism Association and the Manufacturers Association, in that they are organizations of business members whose main function is to develop their business plan and their business support. Whereas the CHIP organization is not that kind of organization. We are trying to serve the community and reduce the number of injuries and accidents that take place. And at the same time, it seems that some members of county council are trying to insist that we should be raising the money. And we're not talking about a lot of money. we were turned down when a request for $5,000, we were cut back to $3,000, which did eliminate some of the activities that we had planned. The CHIP organization, although it's small, but it's mighty, and it does an awful lot of work. We get a lot of support from the province, from the OPP, and from the Transport Ministry, as well as 7 municipalities. There are only 2 municipalities that don't belong. And we also get support from our chief pool, who attends most of the meetings whenever he can. And there's a lot of important and valuable work that's done by this group. And so later on, when we get to the budget preparation, I'm going to be coming back to council and trying to get your support for a more liberal approach to, and I'm not using that in a political sense, a more liberal approach to supporting the organization, and so that we can carry on our work without having to have bake sales and so on to try to put forth the work that we do so diligently. So I just wanted to give you a heads up on that. If there are any questions, I'd be glad to try to answer them.
Councillor Knott.
I'd like to make council aware we have another piece of good news, I guess, for next year for Canada Celebration. The Friends of the Village, who took over all of the Horticultural Society gardening and so on, applied for I guess we could call it a grant, really good, a grant. It was kind of a long shot. Federal government said that they would take submissions for the grant of 1,000 red and white tulip bulbs to 150 communities in Canada. And Blythe got it. We got one of the 150. So the first thing they're having is on October the 1st, when they're having the, what do they call it? Brats and beer in Blythe with cowbell. They're going to make a presentation or do something at the park to acknowledge that at 10:30 in the morning. And it's going to be at the Horticultural Park on Dinsley. Okay? One of the ongoing things about this little deal is that it's federal government, and in order for them to ensure they get their 1,000 bulbs and they comply with the requirements, they are required to have public events and the participation of, let's just call it council, okay, and staff as much as possible. So if you can make it out on October the 1st, you're planning on going to Brats and Beer, then it would be nice if you came earlier and attended their little presentation. There will be a planting. They haven't come forward with their request yet. Because it's a short time frame, I don't know how much Pat's going to be able to help, or even the works department, but they need to dig a garden and plant the bulbs now. And there will be another one in the spring once they come up. Who's going to pick that date? I don't know, but good luck. But it was a pretty good thing for them to win one of 150 in the entire country. That was good. So October the 1st could be a full day for everybody if they come to that and then go to Brats and Beer and then the event afterwards. So tell all your friends. It will get us a lot of recognition because it's going to be promoted by the federal government in various areas. So it'll be something for Blythe to kind of tag on to again. It's a really good presentation. Pat wants to say no.
No, I just think that, the departments will support them. We're still connecting. They just announced this on Friday, late. So we're still playing catch up today. But we're excited for them, and we'll absolutely be supporting and keeping council informed as we go forward.
Thank you.
One more small.
Okay.
I was invited to bring greetings on behalf of council to the Memorial Gardens presentation at the Memory Gardens in Blythe on Sunday.
Okay. Moving to bylaws. And bylaws we've done first and second. Okay. The bylaw number 78, 2016, being a bylaw to authorize the legal clerk to sign a second lease extension and amending agreement between the corporation of the Township of North Huron and Her Majesty the Queen and Right of Ontario, as represented by the Minister of Infrastructure, for the use of court facilities at 274 Josephine Street, Wing, Ontario, be read a third and final time, signed by the Reeve clerk and engrossed in the bylaw book.
So moved.
Councillor Syke, Councillor Hallahan. All in favor? Carried. Okay. The bylaw 82, 2016, being a bylaw to authorize the Reeve clerk to sign on behalf of council an agreement between the corporation of the Township of North Huron, the Wingham Business Improvement Area, and Michael Alexander McDonough for the purpose of erecting a mural on the south side of the building located at 280 Josephine Street, Wingham, be introduced, read a first and second time. Yolanda and Councillor Knott. All in favor? Okay. The bylaw number 82, 2016, be read a third and final time. Deputy Reeve Campbell and Councillor Vaughan. All in favor? Carried. Bylaw number 83, 2016, being a bylaw respecting development charges for the corporation of the Township of North Huron, be introduced, read a first and second time.
So moved.
Councillor Syke, Councillor Knott. All in favor? Carried. Bylaw number 84, 2016. Being a bylaw to authorize the Reeve clerk to sign on behalf of council an amendment to Schedule A to the agreement with the County of Bruce for child care services. Be read a first and second time. Councillor Ritzman-Taninga, Councillor Vaughan. All in favor? Carried. And bylaw number 84, 2016 will be read a third and final time, signed by the Reeve clerk and engrossed in the bylaw book. Councillor Syke, Councillor Ritzman-Taninga. All in favor? Carried. The bylaw number 85, 2016, being a bylaw to appoint a drainage superintendent pursuant to the Drainage Act, RSO 1990, CD 17S93, be introduced, read a first and second time. Deputy Reeve and Councillor Hallahan.
I could just
Yes.
provide a little context to council. So as you know, we are currently investigating a possible shared service arrangement with a number of municipalities for drainage superintendent. This was, the drainage superintendent role was previously on the operations manager position, which we no longer have in our public works organizational structure. So until we find out where drainage is going to end long-term, we really need an interim solution. So this is to appoint Dietrich on an interim basis until we find a long-term solution, particularly because we have a high number of maintenance projects in Morris Turnberry right now that need to be moved forward.
All in favor? Okay. And the bylaw number 85, 2016, be read a third and final time, signed by the Reeve clerk and engrossed in the bylaw book. Councillor Syke, Councillor Ritzman-Taninga. All in favor? Carried. Bylaw 86, 2016, being a bylaw to authorize the Reeve clerk to sign on behalf of council a memorandum of understanding between the Township of North Huron and Blythe Business Improvement Area, Blythe 140 Committee, for the startup funding to plan the 2017 Blythe 40th celebrations be introduced and read a first and second time. Councillor Gladden, Councillor Knott, all in favor? Okay, and the bylaw number 86, 2016, be read a third and final time, signed by the reading clerk, and to be engrossed in the bylaw book. Councillor Syke, Councillor Knott, all in favor? Carried. The bylaw 87, 2016, being a bylaw to authorize the reading clerk to sign on behalf of council a land lease agreement between the Township of North Huron and Glenn and Robert Warwick for the lease of land at the Wingham Municipal Airport. Be introduced, read a first and second time. Councillor Hallahan, Deputy Reeve Campbell. All in favor? And that bylaw 87 be read a third and final time, signed by the reading clerk and engrossed in the bylaw book. Councillor Syke, Councillor Gladden, all in favor? Carried. Other announcements, other business? Okay, that has us to a closed session. Motion to go into closed session.
Closed.
Councillor Syke, Councillor Hallahan, all in favor? Carried. We'll have a short recess.